Welcome to today's Explainer. Okay, so today we're diving into a real-world legal drama that honestly sounds exactly like one of those trick questions they throw at you on a law school exam. We're looking at the case of United Manufacturers versus Sulaiman bin Ahmad. It's a fascinating story all about strict contracts, repossession, and what actually happens when the rigid rules of the legal system collide with just the simple passage of time.
So, picture this. You fall behind on your payments, right? You get this formal, scary legal warning in the mail. And then, nothing. Just silence. Literally years go by. Nobody contacts you, and you probably think you're in the clear. But then, boom, suddenly a repossession officer is standing right at your front door. So, the big question is, if a bank waits over 2 years to repossess your property, is their original legal notice actually still valid? Let's figure this out.
All right, let's start with part 1, the basic facts of the case, focusing on the agreement and the default.
The story kicks off pretty normally. Step 1, our guy Sulaiman finds a standard hire purchase agreement to get some equipment from United Manufacturers. Step 2, he's doing great, dutifully paying off those monthly installments. But then we hit step 3. Sulaiman defaults. And you know, in the very strict world of commercial contracts, that default is absolutely crucial. It lights the fuse for everything that follows.
Which brings us right into part 2, the mandatory statutory notice.
Now, a finance company obviously can't just storm in and seize your property unannounced. Under Section 16(1) of the Hire Purchase Act 1967, they are legally required to issue what's called a fourth schedule notice. If you're studying this stuff, you definitely need to know this one, because it's the specific trigger for the whole repossession timeline. It's essentially a strict final warning. Fix the default or you lose the goods. And in this case, United Manufacturers did everything by the book. They served this notice perfectly.
Okay, moving to part 3. This is where we look at the dramatic passage of time.
So, the notice is served, right? The legal window to pay up closes, and then, wait for it, a massive gap of more than 2 whole years passes before the repossession officer actually shows up to take the goods. I mean, we're talking 24 months of absolute radio silence. If you're the hires in that situation, you'd probably assume the paperwork just kind of expired and they forgot about it, right?
Well, let's look at part 4, the courtroom challenge.
So naturally, Sulaiman fought back in court. His argument was really rooted in just practical fairness. He basically said, look, you can't issue a strict legal warning, completely sleep on your rights for 2 whole years, and then suddenly act on it. He argued that the excessive delay must make the notice stale or invalid. But United Manufacturers, the owner, stood firm on the exact letter of the law. Their counter-argument? The notice was properly served, the default was never actually cured, so that notice remains legally active, completely regardless of the delay. All right, part 5. Let's see the final verdict.
So how did the judge rule? Well, the court looked incredibly closely at the exact wording of the statute and delivered this definitive holding. The Hire Purchase Act 1967 does not specify a strict time limit within which an owner must repossess the goods after serving the required notice. Basically, the court enforces the law exactly as it's written. And the law here? It literally has no built-in expiration date. There is absolutely no use-it-or-lose-it clause in the act.
So here is the ultimate takeaway you need to remember. There is zero statutory time limit after a valid Section 16(1) notice is issued. A delay alone does not, I repeat, does not invalidate the repossession. It's honestly a pretty heavy reminder for consumers. Just because the finance company goes quiet, that definitely doesn't mean their legal right to take back your property has just magically disappeared.
Which really leaves us with a much broader question, doesn't it? If the law sets no expiration on these notices, does this tip the balance of power way too far toward financial institutions? Should a single piece of paperwork from years in the past be allowed to just hang over a consumer's head indefinitely? Think about how you might draft this legislation differently if you had the chance. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and I'll catch you in the next Explainer.